maybe he was 10 years old, but he was like,
a bunch of kids to school this morning from Shannon all the way down to St. Sebastian.
well, this stupid kid, I mean, right now it's rush hour, and he's on it, riding, but instead of going straight across waiting for it to clear, he's like going around cars coming. I mean, fucking idiot. Yeah, I'm sure the tree didn't fall far from the apple didn't fall far from the tree there.
Yeah, he's going to print out a budget. We are live though.
A little Maverick still, what'd that cost everyone?
That was last year.
Line will roll. Fire chief. It's Saturday. Matt, when do we hear back on the rewrite?
Should be Thursday.
And then it has to go back to the judge for approval?
It doesn't have to,
But you could,
we can challenge it again if it's not only language.
when's time run out?
Well, the judge entered the order on the 3rd, so by statute, by the order, they take 10 days.
Yeah.
And so that should be tomorrow.
But
The
then,
judge entered the order like at 11 o'clock at night, so it might have.
so if we're not happy with it, when is your cutoff to file again that it would actually,
We can challenge it again within 10 days,
and it's still,
and then it would go back to the judge to.
but there's some point where it's gonna have to be finalized to be on the ballot or it's off. Right?
Yeah, we're not sure.
That's not far off, I can't imagine.
It's not, I mean, we got to print the ballots sooner rather than later. I mean, we're in mid-August now, you know.
So who approves it? The judge? You don't approve it, right?
Well, he sends it out,
And you'd appeal
and the
it.
Attorney General sends it out, and then we look at it, and if we don't like it, we say it's still biased, it's still misleading.
I think
Then we can go back to the judge, and then the judge has to.
everything I see, that's gonna pass. I think that's gonna pass.
The ballot.
Yeah.
All right, good evening. We will start the workshop with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, this year's Town Council Budget Workshop, we'll be discussing the 2026-2027 budget. Developed by staff. Mike, you want to start?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first workshop for the proposed budget. It has gone before the Budget and Finance Committee, which they unanimously approved, and after discussion and everything. Basically, this is for the fiscal year 27. It is set the general fund budget of $6,555,983,000, and enterprise portion to be an $869,175, and it would recommend a millage rate of 6.195 compared to the millage rate of 6.2388, which was last year's. The rollback rate for this year would have been, to get the exact same money, not what people are paying would be less, but for the town to collect the exact same money, the proposed was, there's a 58728 was with a rollback. I would have brought us the exact same dollars. Now, unfortunately, as the town operates, most of ours is salary driven and employee driven to the cost of most of our budget. For example, this year we saw a 17% increase in health insurance, another 10+ increase in workers' comp, and besides materials and everything. So we're not asking for anything drastic. There's, in a capital, there's some paving projects and a little bit here and there. There is one patrol vehicle that the police department is to replace. We have 2 vehicles that are scheduled to be replaced this year, but we still need to keep those around right now. We're planning on, because of the fact that with the take-home program we have right now, those vehicles have are the spare vehicles. One is actually a spare vehicle. The other vehicle is an unused vehicle for a 12th police spot that has been open that we're not filling till we know what's happening in the November election. So, with that being said, we've paid off the bond stormwater. That's 1 mil that's going away from everybody, and we were 3 years early on that, so that's emptied out. So this year's tax bills will have no stormwater bond money on it. So most of the government expense general things for the general fund budget is your police and fire is a majority of your budget. You know, we're about, if you look at the cost of those two, we're like $3.4, $3.5 million just for your first responders is your most expensive part of the budget. And it's always gonna be that way. We wanna have good service. We wanna have people in the fire department to be there, you know, especially if they're having a medical. If you're having a heart attack, you know, I think that's a lot of people's more concerned. If their house is burning, they want people there, yes, you know, but property can be saved, lives is something different.
Yep. All right. Anything else to add?
No, Jen, anything you think of?
Extra payroll.
Oh, there is an extra payroll in this one too. Yeah, we have 27 payrolls this year. Thank you for reminding me. So which happens every few years, so we had to add extra money for an extra payroll, and
It's like a leap year?
it's just where they fall. We happen, what, at 20?
8 or 9 year, it's weird, it's not the same all the time.
Yeah. 1 year it sluck by before, I think when Chanel was here, and that, they didn't realize it, so it created a budget shortfall in a lot of areas. You had to find money other places. Because payroll, you know, get close to $100,000 every payroll, and then you have the other expenses of pensions on it and all the other good stuff.
Doug, do you have any questions?
No real questions. I just want, I mean, I did some comparisons to years gone back just with the co-pilot, just for point of interest. Clearly, we can see the bond fund's retired. The enterprise fund is now paying for itself in a better way than it was about 5 years ago. So that's good news. Obviously, that'll feed into kind of our discussion of council later tonight with regards to that agenda item you have on there about Nance. At least that's, I'm anticipating that. So that we don't have as much cash carry forward this year because of, we just not have as many capital projects we're saving for in the long term. We've kind of tapped out in terms of our, the fire engine was a big one this past year. So we do have, you know, if you go back and look at the capital budget, it's definitely significantly reduced overall as a budgetary item. We just don't have any big projects in the works. So, but I did want to ask about the pier. So we have money set aside for the pier. Are we not carrying that forward? And so the plan is to allocate that before the end of the fiscal?
Two things is, one, I don't see it happen before the end of this next fiscal year, because,
Well, this fiscal year, I guess, because I didn't see the carry forward on.
yeah, we didn't carry it forward. We moved that money into where the auditors recommended into our reserves to help pay for payrolls and things. We moved those numbers up. But spoke to Jason Steele just the other day, and he thinks we should try to go forward again, especially with a new governor being in there, depending who the governor is and stuff, and try to go forward. But at that point, it wouldn't be till our fiscal year 28 that would even be in effect, because with the state budget only being signed in July, there's no way for it to get in this year's budget, so we would have to see where funding's looking like it's going, and we could put it in our fund balance forward and stuff like that, and reserves from next year, or pull from another project.
What else is captured in reserves that's not in the carry forward? That we traditionally put it in the carry forward budget.
We've got money in case there's emerging with stormwater projects.
Okay.
We're saving for a fire truck. We've got about $300,000
Okay.
and stuff
That's
like
what I
that.
thought, that's what I thought,
Yeah.
I was just looking in the carry forward, I forgot about the reserve transition with the
Yeah,
auditor.
we're carrying forward just nothing really drastically in this year's budget.
Understood. Not that we need to discuss it here, but I think once we get, I think if we're not unsuccessful in regards to getting the state to match grant us for the pier, I think we need to look at our own options with regards to Parks and Rec and their ability to rehabilitate the pier to a level that is usable again, but that's a different discussion beyond this.
Yeah, that's a discussion I want to bring to you all just kind of quickly. We've had some discussion in-house of, maybe shortening, if we can't get the money, we have to find it and get shortening up and maybe do some work in-house, public works and things.
Yeah. So, and on this last one, then I'll get off the stage for the rest of the council to have their discussion. So there are a number of items in the capital and the planned expenditures. Are we planning to time phase those such that, or hold off on purchasing certain items such that we'll have an understanding of which way the amendment for the property tax goes, so that if we need to, we can tighten the belt, so to speak? Or are some of the discretionary capital expenditures planned to occur right away in the beginning of the fiscal year?
The only thing we're mainly looking at is, and we kept it in the budget, when we had to cut $600,000 from the initial budget request from all the department heads and everything going back and forth, to bring the millage rate down, because.
So for instance, just as an example, like there's a vehicle for the fire department, or for the police department.
Correct.
Would we look to hold off on purchasing that item until after we understand which way the property tax is going, and then evaluating how that would impact our plans?
Well, it's really not going to impact that's what I was going to say about the vehicle. That's the only thing is, so we have 2 vehicles that are due for replacement this year, that if we get we've had some major repairs on some of these older cars, and we have to have spare ones around now that we have a take-home program for the police officers. It was one of the goals that we reached year before last. So theoretically, if we were at full staff at 12, we only have 1 spare car right now. But if something major happens, I think Chief Connor can address some of this, we wouldn't move forward with repairing them. So we still need spare cars around.
Understood.
So we plan on buying it. We have one that actually we've got a good price on because they're holding it for us right now. Because it's last year's model, and will let Chief Connor address the dollar amount difference, because we've saved substantially off of last year's model than this year's model.
Yeah.
We still plan on moving forward with that patrol vehicle.
Yeah, I understand. We could pass the budget as it sits, but I guess the question would be is, given the fact that fiscal year starts October 1, and we'll know within 6 weeks whether the property tax amendment passes or not, we should be planning, in my opinion, to time phase those purchases such that if we wanted to back off of large item purchases or change the way in which we do it, we wouldn't have that knowledge. Let's not rush into buying a new vehicle October 30th and then find out 2 weeks later the property tax is changing, and we would have made a different decision. I guess that's my point. I don't have a problem with putting it in the budget, but just we reserve that decision and from a procurement standpoint and what the timing of it. That's my main point
Okay.
there. So a lot of words.
Yeah, I think that's prudent. John?
No, Doug stole all my thunder. Thank you. No, but I agree with him. Is there any way we could just hold off till we see what happens? It is only 6 weeks, right? 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah, we might lose the discount, so it'll be more expensive. Chief Connor, do you know what the cost difference is?
Yeah, I'm just trying to compare this to last year. Apologize. looks like 64,731 is how much it is.
That's fully equipped with all the equipment.
It's including all the lights, the equipment, the decaling, everything. The vehicle
off the
itself
lot,
is
yeah.
44,000.
Okay.
John, while Chief's looking, did you have any other comments?
Yeah.
No.
Carrie?
I mirror Doug and John's remarks as well, where I'm not one to say, let's not do something based on what might happen. I mean, I'm certainly opposed to property bill tax going through, but I kind of mirror that concern. I wanted to make sure that all our officers currently had a take-home car. I know we're down a police officer right now, but I wanted to make sure they do, because we did make that commitment to them a couple of years ago, if you'll recall. It was all of us here, not you, but you probably heard it, that in lieu of a bigger bump up in pay, that was an incentive that we were gonna give to them to keep with retention so they could have take-home cars. So I want to honor that commitment, and I think that everyone has a take-home car at this moment, so I'm satisfied. But I do have some concerns about November, about a big expense, and to, wait and see.
I'm sorry, I did have one more thing. I just want to echo what Carrie said. I work for several police agencies, and having a take-home car is an absolute benefit, and it's a benefit not only for the officer, but it's a benefit for the community as well. So I fully support continue the take-home program.
Okay, so I guess I had one general question in that as we proceed with the budget with the consideration that we might lose the property taxes, and I think that's a much larger conversation on where do you go next? And I assume that's something, I know, Mike, you and I spoke before about the League of Cities working on an action plan on how, like, I guess one of my biggest questions is if you were wanting to reduce somewhere in this budget, because I went through it and I didn't see anything too drastic, where would you start? Like, I see, and I know this is from when I was here, but last term, we had a lot of computer issues, and we were brought up to date, and I assume that's going well, but it is very costly. I mean, in every different department, I'm looking at just thousands and thousands of dollars on computer maintenance. So I guess that would be a question that I have is, if it were necessary to cut, where would you start cutting? And I know the Finance Committee just met, but where, there's gotta be places, because when you guys line item all of these things, some of these line items are very vague, like personnel-related expenses, $65,000 under the general fund expenditures. Like, what is that? When I read that, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's the money set aside for the raises for merit and COLA.
Raises for, I'm sorry, what?
Merit and COLA,
Merit and COLA for the employees.
Okay,
cost of living.
yeah. So anyway, I don't know if you have an answer to that, or,
Well, the answer would be, we'd have to start, we sat down already and cut several $100,000 from the initial budget request going through, and, some programs got lost, some things, that they'd asked for. Computers is kind of, we're stuck because we're paying a bill, we have a vendor. So those type of things we have vendors for, and I wouldn't recommend that, but we would have to start looking in, for different areas, and these things like that, for example, putting flags on Fifth Avenue and things, putting, some events on and things like that. That's where, stopping, releasing vendors that keep care of like the causeway and stuff. We wouldn't be able to keep up at the same level with it. We don't have the employees without adding more employees, or the parks and the median and stuff. So we'd have to look seriously at cutting some items along those areas. Most of our budget is employee salaries and cost of employees.
right.
And then we've talked about it among staff, department heads especially, where could we cut service where there's repetitive, and there's not really anything, there's some areas we could cut, one of that was replacing somebody's position with somebody else part-time and buying some software. So there's a cost and reward for everything. But this, moving forward, depending on what happens with this tax stuff, the money to pave roads, stormwater maintenance, and doing new pipes, we're starting a $160,000 project. We're spent down in Genesee and Watson. A little more than that, actually. And then these paving projects, we're spending a couple $100,000 in paving this year. We're doing Ramona. Things like that will have to start cutting there. So our infrastructure will see a hit on that. Does that make sense?
I think also, I mean, you're talking thousands of dollars, even $160,000, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
still- It's still only $160,000, where we're looking at a couple million shortfall with Amendment 3. I mean, we're getting a little bit off topic, but, and you're talking about the computers, $1,000, you need to be looking at big.
No, they're big, they're big. Look through every department.
Right.
They're big, they are
Right.
big. In fact, what you brought up was the smallest. The Parks and Rec of that is like, I think in the budget for $35,000, that's pennies compared to repetitively. And the other thing is every single time I've been on a budget committee, it's always the cost of insurance that's going up. So, can you remind me, like, are we using a government sort of thing and it's just, this is the trend? Is it increasing because we're making claims? Like, why does this we're talking 20% last year, 14% this year. It's like huge. Like, is there any way to combat that? Like, instead of just, eventually our entire town budget is gonna be spent on insurance, and it's just, seems like, is there some solution to that?
Well, insurance too, you're talking about property insurance, liability insurance, and everything else. We've had
A
increases.
workman's comp, like you said, that went up.
Workers' comp, on, to decrease those, we've gone out and, for health insurance, we shopped it around. We did use the Florida League of Cities a couple years ago, but it kept shooting up more than the other ones, so we went away from Florida League of Cities. And we've shopped around. We had one place wasn't writing. Our insurance went up and we were told it wasn't because of any claims this year. It's just the amount of people in our group and stuff like that. So it was, one of those situations where, and I put a memo out to all the employees this year. Right now, we don't have a tiered system. This is the ones, we offer one policy. The same, we might start offering next year, with insurance trends, a tiered program. They all got memos a couple weeks ago, talking about the insurance and the meeting and stuff, and the cost going up. Went up almost $200 per person per month. Mm-hmm. That's $2,400 per year per person. So,
One of the other things that stood out for me was, maybe it's insignificant, but overtime. Is overtime something that is necessary?
Well, it is for first responders, because, that's where your overtime's coming. You're talking about your fire department. They have a minimum staff of 2 per shift. They have 6 full-time employees plus the fire chief. So anybody's out sick, ill, vacation, a death in the family, that has to be covered, that shift does. So firemen tend to make a lot more overtime than other employees. And in the police, the same thing. They have minimum coverage. Right now, they're covering, we're so short-staffed. We've got people out on injury, and we're down a position. So they're basically, the chief and the lieutenant are covering, they're not charging overtime because things like that. But they're covering shifts, but the other people are required. So it is required for overtime. You have to have that minimum shift coverage when you're first responder. You want to, we'll come back to you in 8 hours if no one's here.
Okay, I just didn't know if
Yeah.
it was I assume it's necessary.
Public Works, yeah, that's very rare in our staff over here in town hall and stuff. The other employees don't see any overtime.
Right.
Yeah, $500 I see budgeted for staff
Yeah.
overtime.
One last thing, without going to the paper, the money that we spend on the parking meter people, are we taking in enough? Because I look at the fines and then what we're paying the employees along with their benefits. Is it equal? I mean, I know you have to have enforcement to get people to do it, but is it make sense?
Yeah, you wouldn't have any enforcement if there was no one down there to do it, so you wouldn't be having any fines, or. They don't have any benefits. We don't pay
Oh, they
benefits, they're all
don't? Okay.
part-time. They only get
Again,
their
when we're
salary.
looking at line items, I'm just assuming it's in that section and it's, you know,
Yeah, they,
Victoria Haverford comes out of that, because she
Okay.
does parking stuff.
okay.
Evans that cleans the beach.
yeah,
But I think just generally speaking, the question was, I think your question was, does the enterprise fund pay for all of the time that that personnel are charging to administer enforcement?
yeah, like she said,
And other services over there, whether it's,
Yeah.
there's trash cleanup and other things, right?
Public Works is like their one full-time employee that's paid for down there, that he's there full-time, doesn't work anywhere else. And then it helps pay for part of Victoria's, because that's part of her job is parking.
Right.
So,
And for that public works position, the enterprise fund pays the general fund for his services, correct?
yes.
Okay. Julie, anything else?
No, you know, again, I come from the private sector, and when I think about a budget, if, it's not nice to make cuts, but I guess if we were looking to be as efficient as possible with the probability or the possibility of what's gonna be voted in November, that, perhaps trying to trim areas where you can, even if it's insignificant, even if it's copy supplies, where can you affect, you know, have the same service we have in town without any fluff, you know?
Yeah, we don't have really any fluff in there. Like I said, without cutting services, that would be the main thing. If we had something go through that affected, like we're talking about, and the projected numbers, we would just be looking at services besides other stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll go through and I'll give you some suggestions.
I mean, that's, unfortunately, we're not like other cities where we have other fun, you know, City of West Melbourne, they collect very little in property tax compared to how they, you know, how they have their funding. They have a lot of commercial and stuff, and they lived on that for years and stuff. So they have they're good without it. Us,
We get a data center?
yeah, we get a data center,
Joke.
but no.
I don't know on that.
But yeah, when you're talking on our budget overall, I mean, if you go to page 8 and just look at the cost for each department, you know, if you look, you know, where the big bucks are, you know, you've got 2.257 for law enforcement. That's the total cost, and of that, personnel is 1.884, so they only get $300,000 extra we're spending in all the other stuff. And that's computers and phone lines and everything else, internet access, electric bills. I mean, just like things people don't realize, and I brought this up at the budget workshop, you don't get those little street lights in front of your house because FP&L is nice being putting street lights in. The town is paying a bill for those. Every month, we pay in the thousands of dollars for those street lights and services. So it's all in there. It's one of those situations where the only way to, you know, we cut services, you got your fire, they're at 1.297, so that's, like I said, that's 3.5 roughly of our 6.5 budget. That's over half of our budget is just first responder cost. That's not talking any other big projects or anything like that. So if we don't have the money, where we have to start is, we have to start cutting services, and if that's what people want, then, you know, that's the situation. We try and keep the services people enjoy, you know, they like the police and they like the fire, they like their streets being cleaned,
And street lights, I mean.
and street lights, and the parks being nice and kept. So, we don't put any fluff in, there's not any of these projects in there.
Anything else from council?
I think I just want to comment that, you know, should this property tax bill pass, it's not like we and our police and fire department in town go away and become unincorporated. We don't get free police and fire service. We're still gonna get a bill. We're gonna have to pay for something somewhere. So I just wanna, I mean, that's reason for those that live here. It's reason enough to vote against it because it will literally dissolve our town. based on the language that I'm seeing today. So we'll pay for it somewhere else. It'll be literally robbing Peter to pay Paul, maybe, but I just kind of wanted to point that out.
And just to point, just more for educational PSA type thing, that would not go into effect until October 1st, 2027.
Correct.
So we would have 11 months, not 10 months to plan, however painful or
Correct.
or otherwise it would be.
And I'll give you an example. The town of Indialantic, we do have the bond money that was paid off 3 years early, like I said, but we don't have a stormwater assessment fee or a road assessment fee, like Melbourne Beach has those. And they don't have a full-time fire department, but, you know, so their millage, we are the third lowest millage rate in the county of the municipalities that supply police and fire service. If you go to the county area, their police and fire services there's a fire tax that they pay, and they pay for an MTSU for the sheriff's office. The residents of Indialantic aren't paying the county for fire services, because we have a fire department, and the same with the police. But, you know, we don't charge all that extra fees a lot of cities charge with these different assessment fees they charge.
One more thing, Mark, I did want to know for the record, Jen, or Molly, excuse me, for the council, you don't have to put me down for my council allotment for 2027.
Yeah. What we'll do
Use as
is-
you see fit.
That question came up with somebody earlier, and I said, we put it there because we don't know what council's gonna wanna do, or who's gonna want the salary, and then we'll put in a budget adjustment and move that, maybe
I
to where
wasn't
that
sure, in
person
years
wants.
past, the preference has been to make a request.
That in December,
Oh,
but
I'm just ahead of schedule then.
Chief, do you have anything to add?
I do. I apologize for not having the information readily available amongst all my notes, but I did find it. So we use Cocoa Ford for our vehicles. It's local. They've been very, very good to us. The last few purchases that we've done, they're getting it done a lot quicker. They have probably 150 to 200 vehicles on lots from all over the state of Florida now, and they take care of us really quickly. So they're in effect holding a car for us to 2026, and it's $1,300 over what we paid for the last purchase from them. And then I'll just let council know that not all those cars out there were paid for by taxpayer dollars. I actually applied for a grant, and we were able to purchase them through a federal grant. So,
Yeah,
so
sorry about
Do you know if they will hold it until November? Probably not, I would assume, but
probably not. I mean,
How much
he's good.
more is the 27 versus that one?
I don't know. They don't have the 27 numbers yet that I know.
It's not gonna be $10,000, it's gonna be a few thousand.
But all the other prices go up too for the upfit, for all the equipment, the lighting, the graphics, all that stuff.
Police department.
I don't have a crystal ball, Dave. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm
Yeah.
just telling you.
Okay. Okay. Joe, did you have anything as a department head? No. I will say, among all the other things, the median maintenance, I know we talked about that at Oceanside or whatever. I feel like we should maybe look at some type of chemical treatment instead of, I know John has his own idea, which is I'm not opposed to either, but before spending 29 grand, I wouldn't mind something, you know.
Can I just jump in there real quick? I just want to say, Joe, I see you guys out there. I think it's absolutely one of the most dangerous operations outside of what the first responders do is pulling weeds out of the median. I just want to go on public record to say that I think it's ridiculous that however that came to be out there, something more, a permanent solution needs to be, and we can talk about that later, but, you know, if we're going to spend money on something, you know, for a permanent fix, that should be close to the top of the priority list because it looks horrible out there. And you guys do a great job. It's not your fault. We get rain and the weeds grow and that's it. So it looks ridiculous. One more thing while we're talking about the budget, and I'm sorry, I meant to ask you before. Are we, you know, we talk about losing revenue, all that, and I don't even know the answer to this, so I'm just asking the question. Are we looking at any other ways to generate revenue for the town? I know we don't want to raise taxes. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, are we exploring any other options to generate revenue for the town? I know we talked about the canoe or the kayak launch. I know there has been some talk about maybe building some up at Nance Park. Are we looking at any other ways to generate revenue for the town?
Yeah, we look for grants out there and stuff, I mean, but there aren't a lot for general, you're not gonna find a grant for something in general, it's for a project normally, or legislative, funding. They're not gonna fund your police department and your other things. It would be more for projects, and we do look for those. Like, for example, the generator that's in here, we have $75,000 for a fire department generator. We've got a grant for that of 150. It's gonna be more than 75. The reason I knocked it back, because we kind of just need extra cost. That's $150,000 we're in a process. We've got an RFP going out, a request for proposal, and it's through FEMA that we're put a new generator at the fire department with the generator that is outdated and doesn't work properly. So we look for them. Chief Connor has some grants out there he's looking at and things.
I'm actively working on a grant right now that's just shy of $1 million for public safety, and it's non-matching, it's non-reimbursed, it's all upfront. And then another grant for it's about $100,000, give or take, that I have to go to Daytona next month to talk in front of a board to try and get that money, and that's for some more public safety stuff. So.
And what kind of, what was that allowed to be spent on?
So one of them is for upgrading our like our license plate reader program and stuff like that, but getting insurance on it, a drone with insurance on it, and then some of our software that we have that we use for searches and things like that. That's all part of that, and then barricades for like 192 for the 4th of July. When we had those barricades come out one year, because I'm concerned about vehicle ramming incidents and things like that, because that's becoming very popular. This barricade system will be phenomenal. It's very easy to deploy. It can be deployed rapidly, things like that. So we can use them for other events like in Nance Park and around town and stuff too. So
it would be for equipment or capital investment, but
correct.
Not for personnel expenses.
All capital. Yeah, it's not personnel, no.
You're gonna find most of your grants are for that first responder area, majority of stuff these
We
days.
appreciate your diligence in achieving this.
Stuff, yeah. Unless you're adding new employees, you know, like Melbourne Beach, I know is going for a grant for adding fire department people. I don't know if they'll get it, but there's things like that where you pay them. And we've done it in the past years ago, where you adding another police officer position, and then it's like a grant, and they pay the first year, then you pay like 50% the second year, and they pay 50%, it goes down.
The short-term thing.
Or the COPS program, yeah.
And to address Councilmember McKnight's concern about the overtime, we just got a reimbursement, in fact, for some overtime through a federal grant that I pursued also. So it wasn't a whole lot, but it was something.
Yeah.
And then we're expecting to get about $8,000 back also to reimburse some stuff that we're doing through immigration enforcement and things like that.
I know, Mike, we've talked about this. Are there any mechanisms as far as an assessment or a tax that the town could add after a referendum to support police, or basically pay for police? Like, so if we lose,
So,
Amendment 3.
police is really, really hard. A fire assessment, and I don't even know if you have to go to referendum for that. I think Matt could probably answer that question to you. We would, yeah. You have to do some studies, I know, and things. But police is, basically, it's almost impossible. You know, unless you're adding service to an area, or a certain area and things like that. That's where the police, but fire and stuff, you can do fire assessments.
Yeah, I
You
think
can't do
even
a
if we didn't have
rent-a-cop?
to, I think it would be appropriate to.
Can't do a rent-a-cop program or anything?
Yeah, renting.
Yeah.
Yeah, 911, what's your credit card number?
You know,
But yeah,
We
even
don't
if
do 911 anymore, sir.
yeah, it's 950 now. Anyway,
yeah.
yeah, I was saying, even if it's not required to go to referendum, I think it's probably a good idea to do that anyway, just to give everybody a say. But so there's no additional tax we could levy to pay for police.
No, there would be too much difficulty in the way everything's set up here. We had a CRA, a special redistricting area, and you were doing that would be a different story.
And
But
CRAs aren't allowed anymore anyway, right?
No, but it would still, in that situation, you could do something for that area,
Right.
charging a special tax, but you just can't, for general police service, charge it.
Do you guys have something? No?
What time is it?
5:40.
I just wanted to let Mr. Brady know, as far as the median, it wasn't like a quick overnight thing. And the way that it went about, when you hire a professional landscape architect, in my opinion, and then hire a contractor, if you drive around Brevard County and beyond, you see medians that are not showered, just seeded with the type of weeds we have out there. And I know I asked you, Mike, before to maybe have Susan come and ask her for recommendations on how to mitigate that, because in my opinion, what's out there is not normal. It's literally like, it's in the middle of concrete, but there's just seeded, and I don't know what the best strategy is, but it doesn't have to. We don't have a unique median that somehow is abnormal than any other in Brevard County, so I don't know why it routinely keeps that, but I mean, I would have held the person we hired and contracted it out accountable before we finished that, but that's just me. But anyway, I don't think it was, to answer you, John, it wasn't just like an over the night thing. We wanted to beautify it, a lot of heart and work went into it, and I don't think that the answer is just concrete over the median. There's an answer, it just has to be done.
Yeah, I'm not blaming anybody. That's not my intent. It just looks terrible. I mean, it looks, when you
agree.
drive into this town, not only do you see vacant buildings and closed businesses, but you see a median that looks horrible.
Right.
I'm just gonna call it what it is. It looks terrible, and there are permanent solutions. Not only does it look horrible, we're putting people's lives at risk out there weeding. Joe's crew is out there weeding it. I mean, they've got enough other things to worry about in this town to make it beautiful, other than a median that's full of weeds. And I'm sure a lot of work went into it. Who do we hold accountable now? It's on us, right? I mean, it's ours now. We own it.
Right.
So I just think we should, and I know we don't have money in this, maybe not the right venue, but there needs to be a more permanent solution out there, whether that's crushed coquina, whether that's pavers. I'm not saying concrete over, but I'm saying what's out there right now is not working. That's all I'm saying.
And I have had a discussion with the landscape architect, and Joe has too. One of the things is she would recommend that we use some type of chemical on it.
Yes, and it was Roundup, they suggested. Susan Hall suggested Roundup, which we do not allow in town of Indialantic.
Right.
Well, interestingly, because I found that too, and since we're talking about plants, Roundup does not affect the Asiatic jasmine, only the grassy weeds that are popping through. Yeah, so it actually would work effectively.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. We have time for public comment. I imagine Dave wants to talk.
Absolutely. So I'm on the other end yelling at you guys. So we're sitting here in November.
Name and address.
Dave Berkman, 225 8th. So in November, there's a high probability this thing's going to pass, right? So we will not have police in 26, 27, 28. This will be the last year. If this passes, this is the last year for the police. So for you guys to sit here and contemplate buying a car right now is ludicrous. Push it off, right? Figure it out. You're actually standing here right now in the state's about to vote this tax away, and you're proposing a tax increase for our town. That's crazy. Find a way. I'm sorry, Mike, but find a way. It's gonna, if this passes, you're not looking for, a couple $100,000, you could be looking for $3 million. And that means no police. It means probably no fire the year after, unless we do some tax on it. But there's no robbing Peter to pay Paul to keep the police, unfortunately. It's too much money. So look at it now. Maybe it's less patrols. I don't know what it is, but we have to look at some other way to reduce it. If you guys vote this tax thing and increase, that's just, it flies in the face of why people are voting for this thing to begin with. I look at, you say, well, we're going to save a few $1,000s by signs on Fifth Avenue. Why in the world, and I support the police and fire beyond 100%, why in the world do we need a $64,000 Chevy Suburban for the fire chief for 8 hours a day? He doesn't take it home. Why couldn't he got a $30,000 truck like Cliff drives? That to me is just pure waste that you guys approved. I mean, why does he need that? I mean, and it's nothing against the chief, guys. It's why? You look at all this stuff, it's nuts. Maybe it's time to go look again at Melbourne Beach. Maybe we have to go look and potentially see how we go combine forces. Things have changed, right? Cost is out of control. Fire, these guys, they want a fire department in Melbourne Beach. We got an outstanding fire department. I think you guys got to start that conversation again. Maybe you'll reach out to Melbourne Beach and see what it is. It's late now, but don't vote a tax increase. It's beyond insane. I heard someone tell me, we had the pipe 1% mill and it was a 10-year, he paid it in 7, whatever it is. When we did this, and it's funny Max is here, because I remember this conversation, if he speaks, he'll tell you about it. We told so many people, when that tax ends, it will end. And many people said, BS, it's not gonna end. One's right here. And what are we doing right now? Well, the tax is going down 1%, we're gonna increase 0.5%, so it's kind of a wash, right? Because
We've never said that.
I've heard it, right? So regardless, we are looking for an increase in taxes when all this is happening. Tighten your belts and figure it out. There's gotta be things we can save. $30,000+ in that truck's insanity. You know, we put flags up, we're doing stuff with the pier. These things are, you know, to me, the critical things is you'll figure out how you get the police and fire supported right now, but don't be crazy and spend this money now when if it goes away in November, you're screwed. What are we gonna do with all this stuff? We're not gonna spend $2.2 million with the sheriff here. It's gonna be less than that. There's no robbing Peter to pay Paul. There is no money to be found. There is no possible way we're keeping those services if this passes. So be smart about it. Don't sit here and vote in a tax increase for our residents when this is coming or potentially coming. Put it off in the budget, you know, pull some of the reserves, do something, but do not vote for that.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Dick Dunn, 330 Tampa Avenue, Indialantic. I've done some analysis just looking back in some of the past. And one of the things I wanted to bring up, that the budget this year is a 16% decrease over what the budget was last year, saving $1.4 million. Also, and looking back over the millage rate over the last 5 years, the increase in the millage rate this year has been the lowest in the last 5 years. In 2004, the increase was 9.9%. In 2025, it was 7.3%. In 26, it was 10% increase. This year, it's a 5.5% increase, which shows a lot of progress. Second of all, I wanted to bring up another thing that should be taken into consideration. Voters approved a $3 million stormwater improvement loan to be paid off in 10 years and adding a 1 mil increase in the millage rate during that period of time. In 2026, that debt was paid off. That was paid off in 7 years versus 10 years. The reason that was done is to save taxes from our residents. In addition, another decision that was made this year that has had an effect was the one that was not made not that long ago, and an additional savings of $450,000 from the council's approval of transferring the 911 dispatch to the sheriff's department. So those are pluses that have happened under this council's administration and under our town manager and our town budget officer. I want to also bring forth that in looking at the information that's available, it's very important to have a reserve that the town can fall back on for emergencies. And in the past, I can go back 25 years when the reserve was 1 month. We're at 3 months reserve. And I think that is due to good planning on the budget staff and the council and the town manager. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, I will add one thing that ties in with what Dave said. Let's see what page it is. There's a item in there for a generator I think it's $70,000, something of that sort. You could, if you have to save money and you need a way to do it, you might consider postponing that generator for a period of time, if you need the funds that crucial. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Dick. Anyone else? All right. We will wrap up this workshop. You guys good? You guys good? All right, we'll wrap up the workshop. No vote on anything tonight, and take a 8-minute break before town council. Thanks for coming.
Cookie time, indeed. Please, pass one, take one down, pass it around.